Welcome back, blade lovers. OG Blade Reviews with you once again. And something brand new, been out for maybe a month or so, so perhaps I'm a little late to the party, but I thank Vosteed for sending this knife to me for consideration and review. So they like an honest review, so I'm going to be honest as I know how. So this knife may get passed along to the next reviewer. I think it might be a pass along knife. They will let me know whether it's a keeper or a pass along. But either way, thank you, Vosteed. Once again, they're back to using their premium presentation here. Nice steel can, which you can use for your jewelry or change or whatever when you're done with it, or simply keep the knife in it. But we also have a pouch inside of the metal tin with the Vosteed patch sewn on the outside. There's the horse and the shield. Let's open this guy up and see what is inside. Well, lo and behold, we have the Parallel. This one happens to be in a blackened titanium with a beautiful, I'm going to try that again. There we go. A little stiff. We're going to talk about that. We've got a 154 cm blade. This MSRP on this knife is about $130. And what everybody's been talking about is it the Benchmade Narrows killer? Well, if you don't want to kill your pocketbook, it certainly is. It's a little shorter. Narrows is about an 8-inch overall knife, and we're going to measure this one up in a moment, but it is shorter and a little bit shorter blade. But $580 is what I saw on the Benchmade Narrows for the MSRP. You might get lucky and buy it for under $500. Oh my God, Benchmade, we don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're doing. I've been following you and buying Benchmade knives for years. There was a time when the prices were reasonable. Now they are crazy. Call it inflation or whatever. But let's talk about this little guy, which in itself is narrow, but they're calling it the Parallel. Maybe because the two handle halves there have this space in the middle and are two parallel lines. Look at that. With a wire clip that is transferable, yay, to the left side of the knife, with those two little slots and one screw. The slots hold it stable, so we really don't get any wiggle. It is a reverse tanto, if you want to call it that, or a clip point with a little bit of a belly. We really can't call it a worn cliff technically because we've got a little bit of a belly. It's not a straight edge, but very useful for light cutting tasks. And it is a lock bar knife. So you saw me having a little difficulty earlier opening it up. What I'm noticing is this detent, if you want to call it a detent on a lock bar knife, is strong. So once you get it past about there, it swings open relatively freely. But there is, right in this region here, there is a lot of pressure for a little knife. Now, whether that spring can be adjusted or not, I don't know. If this turns out to be a pass-along knife, then I don't want to be taking it apart and passing it along with any mistakes I may have made to the next guy who's reviewing it. But there has been some talk about different size screws. Looks like we've got a T6 here and a T8 there. Why they did that, we are trying to figure out. T6 here and T8 for the pivot. Near as I can tell. Don't have my torque set nearby. Perhaps I should. We've got these contrasting orange thumb studs on it. And it is a titanium knife with 154 cm. If I give it a little wrist, I don't have any problems bringing it out. Maybe it will break in. I did give it a drop or two of pivot lube and it's still about the same. So I don't think the problem is tightness with the pivot. Pivot appears to be captured, and you can loosen it, tighten it on the one side of the knife on the clip side. Well, let's take some measurements in your pocket. I seldom do a closed measurement, but it is 4 inches, 4 1/8. If we go to the extreme of the pommel there. Overall opened, 7 inches exactly, so it's an inch shorter overall than the Narrows by Benchmade. It is about a 2.9-inch blade with a cutting edge closer to 3 inches, but still like 2.9-ish. I know there's some official measurements on Vosteed, but these are my homespun measurements. Millimeters on the blade, very thin stock, 2 millimeters thick, which works out to be 0.07 inches. With a handle, you ready for this, of only 0.28 inches. Crazy stuff. And of course, the real showstopper here is going to be the weight. And the weight is 2.3 ounces, rounding up, 2.3 ounces. So yeah, it's under an ounce per inch, being a 2.9-inch blade and a 2.3 ounce knife. Nicely done titanium here, kind of a bead blast, not a bead blast, kind of a tumbled finish, worn looking kind of finish, but it is smooth. You can roll the knife out easily. My thumb's still giving me a little trouble, so don't use me as your proof of the pudding as to exactly how smooth it goes out. Try that again. So takes a little effort to get it positioned to pull back on both of the releases for the lock bar. Let's see if I can do it with a single release. Yeah, I can. But you can feel that it's there's some good tension on that lock bar, which I guess for safety purposes, it locks open just like it is a rock. It is not going anywhere. You can actually get a little bit of flex, very little. I'd say it's very solid for having so little material with a minimal backspacer. And yes, a lanyard hole cut in there and kind of a triangle shaped. It is a solid little knife. And for 130 bucks, I mean, how can you go wrong with that? You got fairly premium materials. 154 cm used to be the knife maker's material. Bob Lovelace was using it in a modified form for all of his customs back in the day. So is that steel still a good steel? The steel hasn't changed, folks. Yeah, we've got M390, we've got Magna Cut, we've got the S90V and so on and so forth, and that's going to jack the price up. But 154 is a good, solid steel. Jimping, nice short run of jimping. Not slippery at all, nice and grippy. They're cut in fairly deep and they got rounded shoulders, so we're not really talking about chewing up your thumb. If you want to lay your whole thumb out there, you can. And some other reviewers have pointed out that they really don't like the sharpening choil. They feel, I don't get it sometimes, I'm sorry. How many times are you going to sharpen the knife? How much steel are you going to erode? I mean, is this going to end up looking like one of your cheap chicken or kitchen boning knives where you end up with something half the width over time? You know, I think I could get by with this for just stropping it basically for a period of time. But how sharp is it, you might ask? I might ask that too. Oh, let's see what they gave us for a factory edge. Oh, what do you know? It's already sharp. So aside from a little stropping, I like what Jared Neves said. Basically, when your knife gets dull out of the box, unless you're going to recontour, not recontour, reform the edge angle and so forth. If it gets dull, strop it first. If you can't get it back, stropping it, use a ceramic. And there's a handy little field sharpener that WorkSharp makes that is really excellent for all of the above, including a couple of diamond plates of different coarsenesses. But I guess the question might be, what's the access to this edge if you're sharpening it? Are you going to hit the handle? I think it's going to depend on whether you're freestyle sharpening it on a stone. How wide is your stone? Are you using a ceramic rod? This might be a good candidate for something like a Spyderco triangle sharpener. I mean, it really depends. I don't think we can fault the company, and perhaps they'll modify it after getting some of that feedback. Really can't fault the company on nuances such as plunge grind and a sharpening choil. I'm sorry, but that's just me. And I'm not thinking this little knife is going to be abused and heavily used. I think it's going to be a lightweight pocket cutter. It's going to do the job for what it was designed, and for 130 bucks. And by the way, there's discounts out there like mine at White Mountain, 10% off. So you're talking, take 13 bucks off of 130, and you're way down there closer to 100 bucks. So, I mean, how can you go wrong? It gets really, really bad, buy another one, depending upon how deep your pockets are, of course. Some compares of the parallel. I was going to say Narrows. I don't have a Narrows to compare it to, sorry. We have the Corsair, kind of in the same overall length, from Vosteed. I reviewed that a while ago. We have the Acorn by Vosteed, actually a little closer in overall length, and maybe even, exactly the same length. And we have one of my favorites, and this is the Valkyrie, a nice button lock. One of my favorites, really. I love it. It's like a 3 or 4-way opener. It's crazy. So that's the Acorn, the Valkyrie, and the Corsair. Corsair is kind of an underrated knife. I really think it's a nice, smaller knife. Look, I can get all my fingers on that. And this one comes in Nitro V. I think a lot of these are Nitro V. I think the Valkyrie's Nitro V. Yep, it is. Beautiful button lock on that, like I was saying. Liner lock for the Acorn. I was going to say Chipmunk. That's an even smaller one. 14C on that one. And I can get all 4 fingers just with a tiny bit left over on this parallel. You're looking for something that you're not even going to feel or know is in your pocket. Don't put it through the wash. Check your pockets first. Then I think this is a really nice option. That's my take on it. It checks the boxes for price point, for convenience, for quality. I think it's a hit. I think it's a hit. You may agree or disagree, but let me know in the comments. Be well, take care, and don't forget to subscribe. You'll see a little logo right over here. You click it, and you will subscribe to my channel. See you soon.